And good morning, and welcome to No Apologies, Please. I'm your host, Gregory. Meriweather. And it's a good day. I can already see some of my guests on, so I'm excited to have them on. Uh, Times have changed drastically. Back in the day, we had a lot of times where teen mothers were emerging in the Black community. At some point, it was almost like people viewed it as a like an end all be all. Like there's no way to survive it. There's no way to get through it. Giving up a lot, almost to the degree where people used to kind of write women off if they had children early. You saw a lot of people shunning women, whether it be their churches, whether it be their communities, whether it be their families. A lot of things happened when young ladies were having children at a young age. So today, man, I've got a couple of ladies on. I'm maybe expecting one, and I know my sister Emma's gonna have to leave early at around 9:30. But we've got a few people, and I want them to come on and introduce themselves as we live and learn. For those women or young women who may be pregnant now, we want to be able to share our stories. So that they can know that it's not the end all be all, but it's something that we can move forward and learn from and still live our lives. So without further ado, man, let's get this show started. And as I say, as usual, welcome to No Apologies, Please. So let's bring on our guests, man. First, we got my sister, Sonia Cook. We've got Emma Bethea Brown. And then we've got Renee Parker. And good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good to have everybody on. It's exciting. I thank you all for volunteering to come on and have this crazy conversation that, people are afraid to talk about these things. And I commend you ladies for the simple fact that, it takes courage to be able to tell our stories to people that we don't know. But when it's all said and done, these stories are for other people because you all persevered through them. So I'll start with my sister Emma. Introduce yourself and tell the people about you.
I'm Emma Brown. I am a mother, wife of 5, mother of 5 as well. It's Greg, you know where I'm going, so it's
be you.
I wasn't going here, but I say I'm a mother of 5.
Yeah.
But I lost one a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But we're persevering. And I don't want to stray off topic, but, it's just kind of swelling up. But we persevered. And as a family, going back until, in high school, my support system was really what got me through. So hopefully what we all share today will be something that will help others.
Absolutely. So shout out to Emma. For those of you who don't know, her son was the young man, Timothy Brown Jr., who was fatally shot in Briarwood Land Sharks. And, and so I just commend my sister for being here and sharing and loving and caring enough to even be able to share that. So my sister Renee, tell us about you and let's tell us what you're doing.
Well, again, my name is Renee Parker. I definitely was a teen mom. My first child was born when I was 18 years old. I do have 3 children living, and a grandbaby who is my world. But just going through the challenges of being a teen mom in that time period when, you have the world, not only the world, but, even your family sometimes against you saying that, you'll never amount to anything, all you're going to be good for now is having children and that kind of thing. So coming out of that mentality and being able to be where I am now in life, has truly been a blessing, and I definitely would like to encourage young ladies, that having a child at a young age is not a end all.
Sure, sure, sure. Sonia Cook, what's up, sister?
I am well. How are you this morning? How
I'm
is
doing
everyone this morning?
Good
doing good.
morning.
Doing
Um,
good.
I am Sonia Cook. I am the founder of Girl Talk Incorporated, but I am also a mother of two, and I am a wife celebrating 20 years this August. But I also was a teen mom, and I had my first child at 16. And then I had another one at 17, and then I had another one at 18. And I didn't have my last one until I was 21. Now, I say that I have two children because two of my children passed away. One when she was 6 years old. She was born with cerebral palsy. And the other one, he passed away after being 12 hours old. So my first one passed away at 6 years old. And then my second one passed away right after he was born, 12 hours old.
Yeah.
And so I am very transparent about my story. I share my story because I understand my story is just not my own. I
Sure.
understand that there are women and girls out there that share my same story. And some may feel ashamed. Some may feel like that they can't have anything more than what they have now. But I believe we are a testament to what, perseverance and getting out of your head and not allowing society to define you and say you are a statistic because you made this decision. I understand that I was not the decisions I was making. I was just in a rough place. And so, to all, young women and girls, you can make the decision to want more for your life. You just have to surround yourself with people that will support you, people that will hold you accountable, and people that will affirm you and push you to your greatness.
Absolutely. So you had yours, you had 16, 17, 18. Emma, you said what, 18?
Mine was junior year high school, so 17.
17. And Renee,
I actually graduated early, but yes, I was right at 18.
right, 18. So when you all think back, we got to get to the source. We got to get to the source of the matter. Um, what coerced you? How did this all go down? I'll start with you, Emma. How did this all go down? What did the dude? What did he say? How did this work? Because I want women, young ladies, to know how. What was this smooth talking dude doing? Talk to it. Let's.
Believe it or not, we're married. I mean, we're
Oh, nice.
together.
So that was
We'll be
10.
celebrating 28 years married this Saturday. So we've
Awesome.
been together. Our oldest, Tamia, she's 37. So it
That
ours
is
just
hilarious. I did
worked,
not look at him. But go ahead.
We
I'm
were still
listening.
young though, so it was,
Yeah.
but we're
Yes.
still together.
That's nice.
Awesome.
So Renee, what was said? How did it go?
So actually, I was on birth control.
Uh-huh.
So, and I was on birth control not with the intent of necessarily making sure that I prevented pregnancy, because when I first got on birth control, I was not even sexually active. But he actually took. He's probably watching, so he'll probably be like, "Baby mama, don't be telling my story." But yes, I was on birth control and missed some pills and ended up being pregnant. Yes.
Wow. So let me ask the question. So Sonia, tell us what happened. How did this go down?
Okay, so mine is a little more serious.
Okay.
I totally believe that even a person that doesn't have good intentions, they can smell someone hurt. They can smell the trauma. They can smell that, and they can smell it and see it because, instead of you being at home, doing homework, or your parents, just being heavily involved, you kind of out hanging out. And so that was kind of my story, and I don't know how far you want me to go with this. You just let me know.
You tell me.
During the time when a girl is going through her emotional changes and hormonal changes, that's the time when mom is supposed to step in and say, hey, it's going to be all right. These changes are normal for you. We start to feel like we're not pretty because we're going through all these changes. And when girls don't have that, they go look for it someplace else. When they don't have that woman in their life, that dad in their life, that male figure that loves and care about them, telling them it's going to be all right. You are worth this. You are beautiful. You know, we're going to support you. We're going to be there for you. When she doesn't have that, she's going to go look for it someplace else. And that's something. Go ahead.
So does dad, what role does dad being and dad not being do you believe plays into a young lady in teen pregnancy? I'll let you go first, Sonia.
Okay, it plays a huge deal. My father was around, but my father was in and out of jail. My father, I adored my father. My father was, everybody say you look just like your dad. Everybody say I look like my mom, but if they see my dad, I look exactly like my dad. He was 6'4", very handsome gentleman, very super smart. My grandfather, his dad, was in the military, owned businesses here in Indianapolis, but he couldn't get out of his own way. And so he would write me all the time when he was locked up, when he was out, we would get together, but he wasn't there when I truly, truly needed him. And I needed him to tell me, you know, hey, you are beautiful. You are worth so much more. Because the thing is, our fathers are our first relationship with the opposite sex. And depending on what that relationship looks like, most times will determine what direction that girl will go into when it's time to date and look for the opposite sex to be with.
Sure.
And so, you know, even though I ended up with a man somewhat like my dad in terms of smart, handsome, you know, all of that, the guy that I had my kids with, all of my kids with, except for one, he was totally opposite. And he was somebody that gave me attention, you know,
Sure.
it was bad attention. Now that I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it was horrible attention,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
that's where I was in my self-worth, in my self-esteem.
So Emma, although you know you're still with that man, what role did the father, or was your father there, or was he not?
Unfortunately, my father passed when I was just a young girl, so
Okay.
I never knew, you know, that relationship between, you know, a father and a daughter. And like Sonia said, you know, that is your first relationship, you know. So it wasn't that I was looking for something that I didn't get because I didn't know what it was because I never had it.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
just being out there and being, you know, in the, you know, I won't even say the situation that I was. He came along. I mean, he wasn't the first, but
Sure.
you know, we stuck. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a little different.
Blessing.
But again, like I said, you know, we were young, so we still did stupid things within that first, you know, those first few years or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know, it worked for us
Sure.
now.
How about you, Renee?
So my father was definitely there in the picture. And, you know, more than anything, I probably could say that, you know, my son's father is actually a little bit older than me. So, you know, he was definitely more experienced in the world per se. You know, my parents were fairly strict actually with me coming up. So, you know, when I was allowed to get out, that's when I kind of
That helps.
rebelled, you know, and did my thing. So it wasn't that I was necessarily like just out there, but you know, he came along, he was something similar to my dad, but totally opposite of my dad.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you speak of women looking for father figures, you know, we do always look for some kind of, you know, feature of our father, if it is a positive feature and or a negative feature. You know, I've seen people do the opposite as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get into this thing. So what are some of the things once you're pregnant, take yourself back to that time and you're pregnant now. and going to school or in the community, what were some of the things that you heard and some of the things that you felt from people, from family, that you still remember to this day? Emma, I'll start with you.
Um, I hid mine for the first 5 months. I was still
Emma
in.
used to be able to run, y'all. Let me tell y'all the story. Emma used to run over there in the neighborhood with no shoes on, and she was really fast, and she beat all the boys. She was tough. I'm just telling y'all the truth. She don't want to tell y'all, but I'm telling you. So
See, I
I
was gonna
see how
leave
she
that
can
out.
hide it because she was in top-notch shape. So go ahead and tell the story.
But I did, like I said, I did hide it. I was still cheering until I couldn't fit that uniform. But until like when it all came out, um, my mother and grandmother, they are the ones that raised me. But it wasn't as bad as I thought that it was going to be.
Mhm.
Um, but of course, the other aspect was being active in church. You know, that was a different, it wasn't as, of course, positive or anything like that. So going through and serving and doing the things that I were doing, when it all came, it was like, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that now. It's like, sit down now. So it's like, all service stopped. So
Yeah, yeah.
there was definitely a difference between the way that my family received me and the way I'll say the community church received me.
Sure, sure. Uh, Sonia, how about you?
Um, so my family, I grew up in church and all of that. But at the time when I was pregnant, I heard the typical stuff, because I was in high school at the time, of course. I ran track for Broad Ripple. I was pretty good. I was a cheerleader. Um, but I wasn't getting what I needed at home. And so, going to church and that, oh, she's fast, and but nobody ever gets to the root of it.
Sure.
That's my situation. Nobody ever gets to the why or how did this happen. They just think you're out here just being fast, but nobody wants to address why it happened or what
Mm,
caused it to happen. And that's what I always talk about when I have the conversations, when we have conversations for our daughters, and when I talk to the mothers. Nobody ever gets to the why it happened, how it happened, and let's see what we can do to prevent it from happening again.
yeah.
To be honest, I didn't feel any love. I was just a girl that was pregnant.
Mm,
Nobody sat me down and talked to me. Nobody wanted to get my perspective on anything. I was just a girl that was pregnant. I didn't
yeah.
feel any love. I didn't feel anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Renee? Yep.
what led me to do it again and again versus
Sure.
somebody saying, we can ready to stop this right now.
Right.
Like, we're going to figure this out,
Yeah.
you know.
How about you, Renee?
So I was not in love with my son's father. There was a strong like or an infatuation, I
Hmm.
think, more than anything. And my family had mixed reactions. Most of my family had already been having children. So they were like, okay, well, she's pregnant now. But I was always kind of like almost like the black sheep of my family anyway. We're like, um, there's only a few of us, at that time that had graduated high school before having children or even gone to college before having children. You know, uh, and then there was other people in the family was like, well, like your life's over, you won't be able to do anything,
Yeah.
and going through those stereotypes, and even being in church, and I praise my grandmother, rest her heart, who was like, baby, you hold your head up high. This is not an in all death sentence. This just means that you have another responsibility. Doesn't mean you
Yeah.
can't do anything you want to do. So I had both a positive and a negative in my life.
Going back to what Emma said, all activity stopped in the church. I'm going to say this, and most pastors ain't going to like it, but I'm going to say it because I have to. But it's amazing how we look at life as if we grant it in the church and make the decision of removing people from God's work based on God's decision. And it baffles me when we look at that life as if those two people actually created that and not God. They did the act of God. They did the act. God did the creation. And there's a reason. And it baffles me why the church doesn't look and say there's a reason God chose for these people to have this child and for this child to be on this earth. And only I make that decision. And who are you to condemn it? So ugh, and it just did
His
something to me.
word.
So I want to hear your perspective on that, Emma, because I want to hear everybody's perspective on that, because I think that the church in our community mishandles God's work from that perspective, being that it's just happening at a time that they don't understand why it's happening. So Emma, I'll let you chime in first.
For me, I had an advocate in my godmother at the time. So I didn't sit down. I continued to serve. Um, she was not the pastor, but it was like she went hard and was like just the words that you said, you know, the act was the sin,
Yeah.
you know. So she's like,
The
we're
child
not
is the gift.
exactly. She's like, so what are we teaching her? What are we teaching her by sitting her down? What is that going to do? You
Yeah.
know, so I did have that. Um, so I, but you know, 3 4 years later, I turned around and did it again. But
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
I still had that advocate.
Yeah.
But fast forward to the new day, because going back to my oldest two that I have, they both, you know, had
Yeah.
children in high school, and
Sure.
where we were in the time, I'm a little more mature. I'm a little more in church now, so I'm thinking what was being said was the truth. So they did sit down. You know,
Hmm.
I didn't fight for them like somebody fought for me. You know,
Hmm.
and I wish I had. That is one of my regrets. You know,
Yeah.
because that did something to both of my daughters. You
Yeah.
know,
I can
so
only imagine. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. Because when it's all said and done, it's like, not to be churchy, Gregory, but it's like you can't look in the Bible and see perfect people. All the people who were used for a perfect cause were imperfect. Only one was perfect in the book. But it's a whole lot of people that did work even after he was gone that were imperfect, prior to and after. And I think that, in our community, condemnation for humane or human acts should not take place in our community. There's a lot of other wrong that's popping off, as we all know. But when it comes down to it, and it's like, and young people get frisky, and sometimes you get lucky, and maybe you just remain abstinent or something. But for those of us who were not, it's like, okay, it happened, but that doesn't mean it's the end. And I think our mentality has to shift. What about you, Sonia? You're muted. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Go ahead.
Okay. Like I said before, born and raised in church as well. My family had their own church for years. And when I got pregnant, it was like I was throwing my life away because I was doing well running track at school. I was a freshman running varsity. I was winning meets, and they just felt like I was throwing my life away.
Mhm.
And, the judging came, and it was just like I was kind of thrown away. That's what I think.
Yeah,
I didn't feel any love,
yeah.
um, and so it was just like I was throwing my life away. Now that I'm older and I had found, how you find out, oh, well, you did this, and
You found out they dirt.
you find out that dirt, and it's just like, really? And
Yeah,
y'all dogged me out that
yeah,
bad, and even other family members, and you found out, like, oh
yeah.
my gosh. But they
Grandma was wilding too.
oh my gosh. But they kept that hush hush because
Facts.
they wanted to keep the name
That's real.
pure. So I
That's
was messing up the name,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and
when you realize that your cousin is really your brother, that your
We
auntie
didn't go that far, but
took on to hide the baby.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, let's keep that hush hush.
yeah,
And so,
yeah,
like I went back to, nobody wanted to find out the why.
yeah.
And
What about
that's
you?
the sad part.
Yeah. What about you, Renee? How did the church do you?
So definitely was sat down.
Yeah.
I
Sit
was
on
in the
down.
choir, praise team, praise dance, and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
well, you can't," and it wasn't. They didn't do it until I started showing per
Uh-huh.
se,
Uh-huh.
um, because I was an unwed mother, to
Yeah.
be. So we had to keep the pretense in church that it's not acceptable for someone who's out of wedlock to have baby showers
Uh,
and
Yeesh.
you know, be active in ministry and do these things. And I'm like, being pregnant did not change my heart for God. If anything, it increased my heart, you
Yeah.
know. And I think that's the misconception that a lot of the people make, or the mistake they make in making that kind of precedence in church,
Yeah.
because if any time, that is when a young mother would need the church the most, is during this time of need,
Yeah.
so why ostracize them?
Yeah. That's the last thing you need, because that was the first thing that pretty much for a lot of teen mothers, that was the first thing that put them in the place of being a teen mother, was being ostracized and left alone and being out there to fend for self. So I just see it twofold, and not just in this, and I'll say this to the church, not just in this realm, but I just think in the realm of sin, we got to be better agents of cultivating and developing people, because people are people and people make mistakes, but God doesn't throw people away. That's
That's
just my
it.
perspective.
Definitely going
Um,
back to what you were saying. Hate the sin, love the
Love
person.
the person. Absolutely. So, I want to just do this because I know my sister's got a meeting in a couple minutes. I just want to say, one, thank you, Emma, for coming on. I know that this is a tough time for you and your family, but at the end of the day, one thing that warms my heart is that you do know God, and that I did come to the funeral, and I just will say that, there is something to be said about people who know him and the grace that comes up on them when they're dealing with tragedy.
Mhm.
And I just want you to know that we got all love for you. You are in my prayers for you and your husband and your children and your family. I just want you to know that, you always have an avenue here, in any time you want to share and talk and be able to bless someone, with what God has given you, not just through triumph, but through tragedy. So I thank you so much. If there's anything, you have anything you want to say to the people before you go?
Um, I want to thank the community, um, for you. When I saw you, it blessed my heart, because we see each other and we joke,
Yeah,
on Facebook and whatnot.
yeah,
But when your friends from way back come and show up and support, you know that's a blessing.
yeah,
That's a blessing. um, I take great joy, great pride, and very blessed to see the outpour, that we received, and that he received, because he got his flowers. I mean, it
sure.
was like, let the work I do speak for me.
Yeah, end of the day.
It spoke, you know,
Absolutely.
and that's a blessing.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
trying to navigate through this. It's still fresh, of course, but definitely, I know that, when things kind of simmer down, we definitely, will take you up on,
absolutely.
your offer. It's bigger than us.
Yeah,
As my husband said, that he has to, he has to forgive, and
absolutely.
that's
Yes,
the avenue that we choose,
yeah,
to go.
absolutely. Well, I thank you, sister. Get to your meeting, and we'll definitely be in touch soon. I'll be checking in on you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, sister. Thank you
Nice
so
meeting you
much. Have a
guys.
good one.
As well.
All right, man. So that's my sister. She's going through a tough time. As mothers, I'm sure you all can attest to that. And Sonia, as you being a mother who has lost two children, not necessarily through someone killing them, but just through losing them. My mom is one who lost a child as well. So I could not imagine the feeling of being the birth canal and then one who watches their child go home. So moving forward, man. So you talk about the exile. Let me ask you too this question: what happened? What is the difference between what you all go through when you're a teen mother and what the young man goes through if he is one who is a teen as well?
I can't really see my kid's father. He should have been in jail.
Mm-hmm.
He should have been in jail, because if I had the baby at 16, then that means I was 15 when I got pregnant, and he was 22. And so, and I can say I've always been one to date older, but he should have been in jail. And nobody batted an eye about that. Nobody said anything. I do recall my mother and stepfather, trying to keep me from seeing him, but that was just a threat to me. You don't need to see him. But nobody said, okay, this is statutory rape. If we're going to be real, this is statutory rape, and we're getting ready to file some charges. Nobody said that. His mother and sisters, nobody ever said anything. Now, of course, I know this now, but when I was young, he was just somebody that was giving me some attention, although it was negative and bad attention, but he was giving me the attention that I wasn't getting at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and it was it was crazy, but nobody said anything to him. It was all just, here's a 16-year-old getting ready to have this baby. I didn't have the baby shower. I didn't have any of that. I just had the baby.
So people kind of looked at you like you shouldn't have participated in the act of sex, and basically it's on you, and this guy gets to roam. Renee, what was your experience with the young man that you were with, or the man that you were with, and the difference between while you were pregnant and he knew you were pregnant? What was the difference?
So it was actually, I was already 3 months by the time I actually even found out I was pregnant.
Okay.
But he was already gone on with his life, doing his thing, spreading his seed wherever. And I was in a transitional space where I was moving on with my life when I actually even found out I was pregnant. So, going through the pregnancy, a lot of it alone without him, I guess you could say. And looking back at that now, I think that was a blessing in my case, because, I think we probably would have been feuding and, arguing and everything else. I would have been stressed, dealing with him doing what he was doing, in life. So I look at it as a blessing that, I did have to go through this kind of like by myself without him, without having that stress, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
At the same token, I think a lot of it is when people are having children with, someone else, a matter of if they even know this person like that, to be around them, are you getting to know them while you're pregnant, that kind of a thing.
I mean, you look now, and even as adults, I think that, just the sexual attraction, it's almost like sexual attraction sometimes blinds us to the degree where we don't look at everlasting, and we make this decision on this short form of intimacy, not thinking about what would it look like in the future with this person if I were to be pregnant. Because once we have the child, we attach for life.
Exactly.
And no matter if we married or not. How do we work on, garnering that mentality to young women today? Even though, let's be real, teen pregnancies have dropped drastically,
Yes.
and I don't think it's because they're not having sex. Okay, let's put that out there. I don't think it's because they're not having sex. I think it's simply because a lot of people put them on birth control at an early age. But how do we change mentality to really think more about who the guy or who the girl is? Because I'm gonna speak for men as well. Who is it? Who am I laying with? And can I deal with being with this person for the remainder of my life in some way, shape, or form? Sonia, I'll start with you.
When I talk to girls, I let them know, hey, this is your child's father. And I come at it from a perspective. Do you really know this dude outside of, oh, he's cute. He got some fly shoes on. He got a little money. He drives a nice car. He didn't say something sweet in your ear. I said, do you really know this guy? Do you know his family? Do you know if he has any mental illness? Because that does pass on. I said, do you want to be, like you said, attached to this dude the rest of your life? What made you want to have a baby by him? What did he do to make you think that it was okay to lay up with this dude unprotected and then have a kid? What did he do? If he has other kids, was his other kids around? Did he take care of his kids? Did he spend time with his kids? Like, what did he do to make you think, I'm going to have a baby by this dude? But they don't think that far in advance. They're just thinking right there in the moment. And as a result, they're getting pregnant. And the thing is, a couple of the reasons that the pregnancy percentage has dropped because, one, as you said, they're on birth control, but two, abortions. Now, of course, ain't no abortions happening no more, right. But abortions. I knew a lot of girls that I went to school with, they were getting pregnant, but they had big sisters and aunts, and they were getting abortions. Yeah. I was having mine, and so it's not, it's a situation to where I have these conversations with the girls and I'm like, hey, it ain't fun. I say, you all have way more resources than what we had, but I promise you, it's not fun having to take it. Well, and then now too, you have mothers taking care of kids as they did back in the day, but so it's okay. They're having the baby showers after, 1, 2, and 3 kids. So it's almost seems as, it's something fun to do. I'm gonna have this baby shower. I'm gonna have this gender reveal. All this money goes into this thing that, and I won't say that it's something to be ashamed of, but it's almost kind of rewarded.
Yeah. Renee, what's your thought?
So one thing I kind of made sure that I instilled in my children, because all 3 of them are grown now. And as I mentioned, I do have a grandchild, but all of my kids made sure they weren't teen parents, and I'm thankful for that, that they didn't have to experience it then. I definitely made sure that I tried to instill in them, get to know the person that you're going to have a child with, because the very fact that you are with them for the rest of your life, even when your kids are grown, you still will have to interact with that person. Mm-hmm. Is this a person that you will be able to have a communication with? Can you have a conversation? Can you make decisions with this person? And I only had one child out of wedlock, Grant, but still, even with getting married, making them understand, the person that you're married to, that you have kids to, it's the same kind of principle. You're going to have to be able to deal with that person the rest of your life, right. Because the marriage may not work, so I think that in essence is what I kind of try to explain to young ladies, not only is your body precious, you have to be careful on who you even share yourself with. And this is for young ladies and young men, because not only are there STDs out there that can kill you, you're creating soul ties, I'll even go there. There's a lot of things that you have to be careful on when you decide to lay down and give your body to somebody.
Okay. So Sonia, when you talk about being celebrated now, I see it often. I see a lot of children or young people who have children that don't take care of their children. It's like they still get to party, they still get to travel, they still get to live as if they don't have kids. Somebody is there always taking care. What are we doing in cultivating parents? How are we now not making parents be parents? Back in the day, that was just not the case. It's like you lay down, then this is your business. I'm not taking care of your kids. I'm not responsible for your kids. I'm not your kids' entertainment. I had mine and I took care of them. Now it's your turn to do your job. what has changed in the mentality of the elders to make them now take on the responsibility of someone's children?
Well, let's go to the elders. Let's address that one first. Elders are not elders.
Sure.
Elders nowadays are not elders that we had back in the day. Elders were, even though they had their mistakes and they had their flaws, they were elders. We respected them. We reverenced them. They weren't taking, you had them kids, them your kids. I'm not babysitting. If you have to go to school, that's one thing. If you have to go to work, that's one thing. But for you to be hanging out and all that, I'm not doing it. I recall I was 16 when I had her. I found out that she had cerebral palsy when she was almost 2 years old. They wanted me to put, not my mother or anything, but we were going to Riley Hospital. They wanted me to put her in a home because they felt like that I wasn't capable of taking care of her. I was like, nah, this is my baby. I'm going to take care of her because she couldn't walk. She couldn't talk. She had seizures. She had muscle spasms. And I was in my head enough to know that I'm not going to leave her somewhere where she can't be protected. That was one. But now they celebrate it. You see these baby showers and gender reveals and all this money goes in, and it's almost like this is fun.
Yeah.
And then you see grandmothers now are, in their 30s, 40s. I told my kids, y'all ain't having, we gonna break this generational curse. My son is 31. He doesn't have any children. My daughter had her first one at 31, and she's in a relationship with a guy that she's had her first child by. They're still together and expecting their second child. But they glamorize it. You see the kid, like, just with everything, the materialistic things, they make it seem fun. They
make it seem fun and stable.
Yeah.
That's the real challenge. Is when you make it seem like, all these people, it's like all these people kick in and chime in, and all of a sudden it's like we create, it's almost like we create the monsters that we're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
And we start creating them as babies, and all of a sudden all the materialistic things start kicking in. Everybody want their baby to be fly. They wearing Burberry and Gucci and
oh my gosh,
foolishness and all that kind of stuff. And then you build this kid who can't afford it when he gets 18, and then he starts selling drugs because simply he's been wearing Gucci all his life.
Yeah, I remember my daughter. So she was handicapped. So she received the SSI. And I remember, and I know this dates me so bad, but I remember shopping for my kids at GC Murphy. Remember in Lafayette Square?
Oh, yeah.
I
they
shopped
had
at
popcorn.
Yes. I shopped at GC Murphy. I was young. That was what I knew, and I never, until I got a little older, my kids got a few, the Coach store. Remember the Kids Coach in Circle Center Mall?
Yeah.
I shopped there for my kids, and I bought my kids Jordans. But I remember one time my son was 5 years old, and he had some Jordans, and he was making fun of some kid. He said, nah, I got Jordans and you don't. They was in K-Swiss ever since then. Like, I stopped buying Jordans because I just had sense enough to know, no, you're not going to do that. But now, like you said, they are spending hundreds of dollars on things for babies that they will outgrow. It's just glamorized, the gender reveals, and nobody is talking about stability in relationships hardly anymore. Nobody is saying, like Renee said, nobody is saying, how about making a relationship with this person, or waiting, or your worth. Stop giving your body, because when they're young, and I can speak for myself, when you're 15, 16 years old, this person, 9 times out of 10, this is not the person that you're going to be with.
No.
So you're going to be with this person, you're going to have a relationship, you're going to think you're in love, you sleep with them, and then you break up, and then you move on to the next person. And then you move on to the next person. And then you move on to the next person. It's not done purposefully. You're just living life. And the next thing you know, you have a body count.
Yeah.
And nobody thinks about that. I
Oh,
always thought about that.
we gonna touch on that. So Renee, with you, what do you think about the celebration and how now we're looking and more people are taking care of the child and the person who had the child?
So I think a lot of it is kind of like what Sonia was kind of alluding to. Grandmothers are younger, grandfathers are younger these days. We're not like the ages of our grandparents. But I was raised old school. You have a child, that's your responsibility. And even with my son who had a child, in his 20s, you know, I instilled in him, hey, you're not just this is not a drop off service. I love my grandson, don't get me wrong. That's my pride and joy. I love him to pieces, but this is not a drop off service. You don't just get to drop him off and go do what you want to do. Guess
Yeah.
what? If you're going somewhere, if you have something to do, if you have your son, guess what? You need to figure out what you're
Mhm.
going to do with him. Either take him with you or you need to figure out provisions. But at the same time, I'm like, you can't just leave him anywhere. You can't have him around
Right.
anyone,
Yeah.
because even being a male child, with him, even growing up, I was very cautious about who I had him around because, let's just be real honest, incest is real,
Yeah.
molestation is real. So you have to be careful about who you have your children around.
Yes.
Um, Not only that, again, I won't say that I shame, teen moms, the celebration may not be as grand, but the baby still needs things. So no, I may not host you this grand baby shower, but I am going to make sure that you have provisions to get your child what they need if you have a child coming into the world.
Sure.
So it's kind of like how I was raised and how I instilled in my children. Like I said, I only have the one grandchild. Now I have a daughter who's married, so I'm begging her husband to have a baby now. I'm like, come on, I need another grandbaby. Come on.
Sure. Sure.
And she's probably like, mommy, no.
No, no, that's funny. So, I got a comment here. Sherry Coward says, "I had my first child at 17. My mother said I was one of the best young mothers she'd ever seen. My mother was a phenomenal mother, so it was the ultimate compliment. She used to tell me, honey, I want you to be a teenager. We are here to help. I told her I did this. I'm going to take care of him. She didn't have to tell me. Difference was we had examples of mothers around us. I'm 51. And I have to agree with that comment because, back then it's like, they were there in for relief more so than for your fun. They were there because they were like, you know what, I need you to take a break because I see you getting, you're imploding dang near to that point. But it wasn't a thing of saying, no, shun this responsibility because it ain't mine. It
Right.
ain't going down like that. And I saw that. I mean, I saw that even though my first child didn't come into my 20s, but I still, even with that, saw my mom be like, listen, get on, that's y'all. That's, this ain't my business. Nicole Powell, she was like, talking about as far as the celebration, she said, it's silly. They don't even have common sense at all, but want all this fake mess. And when you
Yeah.
see that, I mean, it is a testament to where we are as a people. And I just challenge people, and I'll let you all chime in on this. I just challenge people to help create responsible people
Yeah.
as opposed to people who get to do stuff and then just throw the responsibility to somebody else and we just take it on and say, oh, okay, you keep doing what you're doing and it's cool. I just think we have to be better agents of creating responsible people than we are currently. So with that being said, how do we look now at young ladies, and like you said, a lot of celebration goes on. A lot of young ladies are still, I think this is just from my perspective. When I listen to the music, I know young women are more sexually active than ever.
Mhm.
May not see the kids, but I
Yeah.
know they doing stuff that young ladies didn't do when I was in school.
Mm-mm.
There's a whole different act out here. It's a whole different thing. We'd be like, what she does what when we was kids. So what are we doing? What are we doing to kind of tame that? Because you got all this music and all this kind of stuff going. What are we doing to tame that? Renee, we'll start with you.
So as I do take on young ladies periodically to mentor, I just kind of like talk with them. A lot of it is again the influence of society, the language they even express to each other. If they refer to each other as the B word all the time, or bro, or no, you need to respect yourself, and then you need to respect others. I actually had a situation where I walked up on a young lady being active,
Oh.
and I stopped right there. I'm like, I'm not your mother. Please understand, I'm not your mother, but I am a concerned adult. And you are better than this. You are letting this young man take advantage of you outside.
Mm.
You know,
I know
where's your
he.
self
I know he
respect?
was mad at you.
He was, and he had a few words, and I had to get him together too. You know, I can't
Yeah.
say what I said because
Yeah.
I went old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a simple fact. I had to point out to both of them. Where's your self respect? And the fact that you have to come outside to do this, you're letting her know you have no respect for her because you're displaying her on public, and you're
Mhm.
letting yourself know to yourself, I'll just do this anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Sonya.
it's a matter of a conversation with young ladies and young men,
Yeah.
because they may not be getting that conversation at home.
Yeah.
I
So.
know with myself and that girl talk, it's all about self-worth.
Mhm.
That is something that is instilled in their heads over and over and over again. Like Renee just said, if he's going to have sex with you outside, you mean nothing to him. You mean if he will have sex with you in the car, you mean nothing to him. At school, behind some stairs, you mean nothing to him. You are worth more than the most precious materials here on earth. And I often quote them and share the story that Muhammad Ali had with his daughters when they came to see him at the hotel. And they were kind of dressed a little skimpy, I'm sure, for his taste. And he told them that the most valuable things are buried deep within the earth: gold, diamonds, pearls. Diamonds, pearls, just those things are buried deep within the earth. And if someone wants to get to them, they have to put in some work.
Yeah.
And I tell them, you are so much more worthy than any of those things. This is your body. I tell them all the time, if I could do it all over again, I would have a padlock chained up. It would nobody get none.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, I know my worth now. And I always tell them, I said, the guys, because and it's a shame we have to put it this way. I said, but the girls that truly gets the guy is the girl that held out.
Yeah.
Girl that focused on her academics, the girl that focused on herself. She wasn't thinking about him. She may kiss him, but that's it. I said, yeah, the guys will sniff up after the big booties and all that other stuff. I said, but that he ain't gonna really take you home.
Right.
I said, and you keep giving him your body. The soul tie thing is true. You're
Yeah.
attached. I said, us women, and I'm transparent, just imagine how many people we have been soul tied to. And then you wonder why these chicks out here acting a whole fool, because they got Tyrone and John and Bobby and George and all these people wrapped up inside them that they can't think straight.
Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky,
Ricky
Mike,
and Mike,
Ralph,
all of them.
and Johnny.
And people don't, but we don't want to talk about that as a community. But then also it goes back to what I said in the beginning. People don't want to talk about the why. What has happened to this young lady to where she feels as if this is her only resort when it comes to a man? What is a young man? What has happened to her? Who's touched her? Who's done something to her for her to feel like this is normal? We don't want to have that conversation either.
Yeah.
That's too heavy. And then that puts the responsibility back on the parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Are we too busy?
Yeah.
Renee, are we too busy?
That's one thing I can say, that I not necessarily regret, but almost like a regret looking back on it. Being a young mother, I ended up working like 2 or 3 jobs, to take care of my son at the time. And, one of the things he said to me as he became an adult, he's like, Mom, I appreciate, everything you did, because he was in the Jordans and, the nicer clothes or whatever. And but there were times when he wasn't in those things as well. I had to make sure that I made provisions. But one thing he said to me, he said, those things were fine, but I would much rather have had you here at my band competition or at this event, versus my grandparents having to be there. So, you have to have that life work balance for sure.
Sure. My sister Kelly Vaughn said, and what do we do about these guys who act like dogs, as she's mentioning? Get to the root of the issue instead of just telling women how to protect and guard themselves. If you did not, we did a segment earlier on the gentleman and the difference between what happens with him and happens with her, and how to maneuver about. So if you go back, Kelly, you'll see that we did chime in on the men. This is not just a segment of correcting the women. This is a segment of correcting all behaviors universally. And that's why we do this unapologetically. We've got
right quick, Greg.
Sure.
Can I say something to Miss Kelly's point? We are talking about the women, but this is the deal with talking about girls. At the end of the day, when that baby leaves the hospital, they're giving that baby to the mother. They ain't giving that baby to the father. Even when they are married, they're still giving that baby to the father. At school, when the child gets in trouble, if the father has not made himself a constant present, who they're going to call? They're going to call the mother. So at the end of the day, we have to teach our daughters that taking care of your body and showing your body the worth that it deserves is up to you. Because at the end of the day, if the girl ain't putting out, the guy ain't getting.
Preach on that.
You see what I'm saying? So yes, men should
unless it's a criminal act.
Yes, unless it's a criminal act. Exactly. So yes, it is up to our men to have the conversations with the boys, the young men. But at the end of the day, the woman is responsible for her body. She is the one that invites the young man. She gives her body to the young man. So if she ain't giving it away, he can't get it.
That's real.
There's a saying that I have loved for a long time, and it's saying the saying goes simply this: the choice of sex is a matter of the woman, and any man can tell you the truth, can tell you that's the case, because she decides, unless like we said, it's wrong. Exactly, if they're going to have sex or if they're not.
Absolutely.
And the guy can walk away. He can walk away, and who still has that baby, that child? And we have so many single mothers because the men decided to walk away. Whether they're present or not, the mother has that child 24/7.
So I'm gonna give you guys a minute apiece on this. Ashanti Katz Bean says, she's a Copycat Bean says, as a mother of two teen girls, I feel it's imperative to speak to our girls about how to handle peer pressure. So I'll give you guys a minute apiece and then we'll close out. You start out, Renee, and then we'll let Sonia finish up.
So peer pressure is definitely real. We know that even from when we were experiencing it in school. I was blessed to have a village of young ladies around me and family around me that, even if they were having sex, they didn't necessarily encourage me to have sex. So, you have to be careful about who you have around you. That's very true. And then you have to have the will yourself to know you make that choice on when you make that happen. Again, the mother in me wants to say, wait until marriage, wait until, you know that you have that bond, that sanctity, that covenant with someone. We have to be realistic. A lot of women won't wait. A lot of young ladies won't wait till that happens. So, you got to have the real conversation with them also about what could happen if you decide to take that precaution or if you decide to take that step before, marriages. And have that conversation and be honest with them, give them not only just don't do it. A lot of our generations were like, don't do it. They didn't give us an explanation on why not to do it. They didn't give us explanation on what changes would happen with our bodies. They didn't give us the explanation on what could happen. You could produce a child. You could produce several children. You could produce STDs that, are uncurable. Those kind of things weren't necessarily explained to us in our days. They were just told not to in a lot of cases.
Sonia, 1 minute.
In terms of peer pressure, I always tell girls, be the leader and let them follow you. You lead and let them follow you. But also, lastly, I want the mothers to be more involved. We are busy. We're going to school. We're working. We're trying to give our kids what we didn't have, but give our kids that time, because that's what they need. Give them that time. We can never be too busy to spend time with our daughters and talk to them. And then also just share with them what, within reason, of course, and have it be age appropriate. Have the conversations with them in regards to what you went through and how you dated and interacted with the opposite sex, so they will feel more comfortable in you being that safe space to come and talk to you about what they're going through, so they don't have to end up as teen mothers or in situations that they may regret later.
So I'll say this, and as it relates to peer pressure, one, the word peer is one that is of equal standing with another. And what we have to do is not diminish who we are.
Yeah.
If you really want to talk about having a peer group and peer pressure, there's a difference when you find peers who are on a higher scope, who are trying to do things, who are trying to better their lives, who are trying to maybe go to school, who are trying to start their business. Have those peers, have peers that take you higher,
Yeah,
not take you lower. So when
Yeah.
you look and say one is of equal standing, then you mean, because the truth is eagles don't fly with geese.
Yeah.
And if you know that your daughter hangs around a bunch of promiscuous women or young ladies, then the likelihood your daughter is promiscuous. If you
Yeah.
know your son hangs around with a bunch of dudes who tote guns and throw gang signs, the likelihood of him doing it is great. So you
Yeah.
have to look and say, who are you hanging with?
Yeah.
And those are, and the people you are around are your peers at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
even in adult life, it's like, as a grown 51-year-old, I have to be around better people. One of my goals on my board right now is to surround myself with people
That's
who
right.
can help elevate me as
Yeah.
opposed to not. And
Yeah.
I think that we just have to do a better job. That I'm 51. I don't care about being outside having fun.
That's
I'm
right.
thinking about what it looked like when I'm 70. So it ain't a matter of me saying, let me sit here, hang here, travel there, go there, do this. I'm like, what is it going to look like when I'm 70? And I
Yeah.
need some people around me that are going to help me attain the goals that I want to help, because I'm there with them and they can feed into me simply
That's right.
because they're feeding that into themselves. I
That's
just leave it alone. So where are you going to be at, Renee? Tell the people where you can be, and we're going to get out of here.
I am on all social media, of course. In my profession, do insurance. I have my own insurance agency now, so I'm
Congrats.
always available for that. But I also have a nonprofit called Destiny's Daughters Ministries. So if you are a young lady, uh, in particular, or a young man that needs some help, please reach out. DM me, inbox me. I'll be more than happy to talk with you, at least, and find some resources for you.
Absolutely. Sonia?
I am on all social medias. My personal page is Sonia Cook, but then Girl Talk Incorporated, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as Girl Talk Inc. Indie. We have our upcoming 8-week empowerment program is starting on May the 11th. Registration will go live for that on April the 11th, which is this Thursday. Check out our website at girltalkincindie.org. And if you have any questions, if you have girls that need mentoring, you can reach out at info@girltalkindie.org.
Absolutely. So as usual, people, when they ask me, they say, you know what, how do we help share the show? Because this is the information for anyone who's with a young daughter, young women who really want to, get something, get some knowledge, get some help. These are two ladies that we can definitely reach out to. I want to say thank you, ladies, for giving me some time today, and sharing with the audience of No Apologies, Please. Always know that you have a platform here. If it's time to share anything you have going on, we definitely want to utilize this platform as a means to even advertising to our people. So I thank you both.
Thank
and
you.
and have a blessed day and a blessed week. And we'll talk soon. Thank you, ladies.
Right.
All right, that's been two of our great ladies coming in and sharing great information. I think this has been an awesome time to spend with both of them, because when it's all said and done, it's no apologies, please, and we want to always have these types of conversations. Moving on, man, we're going to touch on this and do our verse of the day, which is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 and 20, and it says, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies." And I just want to put that out there, man. When it's all said and done, it's like, again, we're not throwing people away. We're not condemning them. We're not saying that if you have a child at a young age that you're no good. We just want you to understand that, you know what, there's a course. There's a course and there's a time for everything. And if you can do it, do it. If you can, you know, aspire to be more. Don't be coerced. Don't just diminish your body and make it something that's easily given away. We must do a better job of that, men and women. We must do a better job of that. So, man, thank you. Share the show. If you want to help build the show, no apologies, please. Cash App, we have that. But also, man, just share the show so that somebody can get some knowledge that they otherwise would not hear through mainstream media or otherwise in some other form of a podcast, man. This has been your brother, Greg Meriweather. I thank you. We're going to keep it moving. It's been No Apologies, Please. Have a great one. Peace.